Hi, and welcome back. Before we move on to our next parami, I'm wondering if anyone has anything, questions, comments, something to share from their day of working on Dana Parami yesterday, generosity.
I could share.
Yeah.
So after the class, I went outside for my typical walk. I've been walking on the road that's, I'm in Minturn and it's parallel to 24. It's that turns into a dirt road. And a lot of the families around here have been using that to walk and bike ride, take their kids and stuff. And over the last few weeks, I noticed there's a lot of trash. So today I walked up and I thought, well, I can pick up trash. So I got a big bag and picked up trash for a couple hours, and it made me feel, well, I was tired afterward, but it also made me feel more of a connection with my community. I haven't been here very long and I don't really know very many people, but somehow that made me feel more connected to them. It was kind of a neat feeling.
Perfect. That's beautiful. Thank you.
For me, I was trying to do everything just to not to sit and meditate for a little while for the last few weeks. And yesterday, it was just a moment that it came to me like, what can you do for yourself? Or like, how can you treat yourself a little bit better? And then I just sit down and I kind of went again. First I sit down and I said, I'm gonna do like my meditation. I'm like, what is my meditation? And then I just did listen again, the meditation from in the morning. So it made me feel very quiet and calm, and thank you.
Thank you, Magda.
I didn't complete the 5 things.
Okay.
No, I forgot, and I realized at the evening, and that's the thought came, what can you do at least for yourself? I'm like, okay, wow.
All right, so is that everybody for now? Okay, then I'm gonna mute you for the talking part. Okay, so today we'll move on to the second parami, sila, which is usually translated as virtue, but I don't think that word really means the right thing to us anymore, or isn't a super powerful word. So I'm going to use the word ethics to translate sila for us. So ethics is also the first of the 8 limbs of yoga for the yogis, and it's considered foundational on the path to freedom. So this isn't just Buddhist. So let's talk about why ethics would be foundational on the path to freedom. So as with generosity, ethics refer to our actions in the world. So they're not subtle, again, like thoughts are subtle, but this is more easy to see and work with, and they're all about relationship. Our actions are where the rubber meets the road in our spiritual life. Gil Fronsdal says, to have a spiritual life, we need to align and harmonize our behavior with our core inner values. This is how we take our practice into the world, and it's also how we change our own mind. Karma literally means action, and it refers to the process of how our actions shape both our mind and our world. What karma doesn't refer to, by the way, is some sort of magical cosmic retribution. And I encourage you to consider karma more like rational psychology than like woo-woo, justice or something. And we'll look at this more closely today in detail. So my first teacher taught that when we see that our behavior is not aligned with our values, that is the path, and that there isn't another path. So this is where our actual spiritual progress happens, is right here. It's a little bit of conflict. It's a little uncomfortable, right? That's where the magic happens. So what gets in the way of our actions aligning with our core values? Some of the primary issues here are fear, hatred, right? Not liking somebody. Hatred's a strong word, but we all have people we don't like as much as others. Confusion, greed, laziness, and ambition. So whatever the obstacles to our integrity are probably obstacles in all parts of our life. Does that make sense? So if we can identify our personal obstacles and remove them, what will be revealed is mental clarity and peace. And that's the theory, but it's provable in Buddhism and yoga, is that your nature is clarity and peace, and that there are obstacles to that are removable. So it's not like we're adding clarity and peace from the outside, that's your nature. So that everyone has that, and it's findable for everyone. And without that premise, these practices wouldn't work. But it's provable in each of us. You don't have to be some special level of practitioner to see that that's true. And I would argue, if you've gone to your first yoga class and you left feeling more clear and peaceful, that you already know that that's true, quite early in the path. So how do we identify and remove our underlying obstacles? The key is mindfulness. So we need to pay attention to what we're doing, when we're doing it, and look to see why. And why is the key. So this takes some practice, and it's worth it. So I will promise you that it's the best thing you'll ever do, actually, is to look at what you're doing and look at why. It's completely revealing, and only we can do this for ourselves. Nobody can do this for us. A good teacher might help you to point you in the right direction, but really seeing it for yourself is the only way. So mindfulness meditation on the meditation cushion is perfect training for mindful living off the cushion. It literally develops the part of your brain that knows what's going on without freaking out. That's what mindfulness practice does. And mindful living isn't like making tea slowly or washing dishes slowly. It's like, those things are fine, or eating super slowly. It's really paying attention to what you do and looking, open-mindedly to see why, and honestly. To find the underlying intention for your actions takes some open-mindedness and also a willingness to see your own dark side. We all have one, okay? And this is tough sometimes, but the payoff is that what was unknown becomes known. And then we can become skillful with it once it's known. And this is what yoga and Buddhism is for, making the unknown known. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And you see this in people, right? They don't understand why their life is going a certain way. And from the outside, as someone who's been observing your own behavior, you might see in some people, like, I know exactly why that's happening. It's because you treated that person this way and you made this choice, right? And you have this look on your face all the time. And but to do it for yourself is possibly harder, depending, for most people. Yeah. Okay, so if you can do this with a non-judgmental attitude, stay relaxed and just notice, so much is revealed. And in the revealing, a slow unraveling process begins. It takes time, but this is the path to happiness. So, Sila Parami, what are appropriate ethical actions? I'm sorry to tell you that I can't actually tell you. It's good news, but it sounds like bad news. Each situation has to be considered on its own with all of its circumstances. So there's no correct way to act, period. There's no correct way to act. However, we develop discernment over time through paying attention, and we just make our best guess at the time. And there's feedback, right? If something doesn't work, we learn that maybe next time in a similar situation, we're going to do something different if we can. So there are 5 precepts in Buddhism. And when you commit to these, you become officially a Buddhist. And I'm going to read the list because they're going to sound familiar. So in Buddhism, it's non-harming, not lying, not stealing, no sexual misconduct, and not using spacing on the word for like booze, intoxicants. And people argue on the intoxicants one. Is it, can you just have one? Is it none? Most Buddhists think none, but lots of them stretch it. But even these 5 precepts in Buddhism aren't considered commandments. They're said to be a description of the actions of someone living from the heart. A description of the actions of someone living from the heart. So that's more palatable than just being told what to do in a, independent society where we don't want to necessarily be told what to do in our culture, right? The good news is that if we feel connected to other people, we're not going to harm them, we're not going to lie to them, and we're not going to steal from them. The more we practice connectivity, the more we become sensitive to the experience of others, and the more we notice how our actions affect them. So let's say you're developing your mindfulness and you see yourself about to take some action that might cause harm. This is a great moment. Okay, so we want to really value these moments and not judge them, and that's hard. In that moment, don't feel guilty, because that will sidetrack you away from taking a positive action. The guilt is essentially a waste of energy. Instead, explore what's happening and reconnect to your ability to care for yourself and others. Don't just keep the rules automatically, but look to see what's happening and care about it. So remember that to be a parami, ethics have to lead to both compassion and freedom. So we can look to see, how is the action I'm about to carry out leading toward or away from compassion to others? How is what I'm about to do leading toward or away my feeling relaxed and good about myself internally? The key is to check the intentions behind the action. If you realize afterward that your intentions were negative, you might apologize or make some kind of amends. So the parami of ethics leads to both joy and satisfaction, and also freedom from remorse. Since actions create karma, ethics is said to provide protection. So I'm going to read you a few traditional quotes about how this protection works. So this is from the Dhammapada. What you are now is the result of what you were. What you will be tomorrow will be the result of what you are now. The consequences of an evil mind will follow you like the cart follows the ox that pulls it. The consequences of a purified mind will follow you like your own shadow. No one can do more for you than your own purified mind. No parent, no relative, no friend, no one. A well-disciplined mind brings happiness. And then from Acharya Dhammapala, who wrote the main treatise on the parami that's used, he writes, even the waters of the Ganges cannot wash away the stain of hatred, yet the water of virtue is able to do so. Even yellow sandalwood cannot cool the fever of lust, yet virtue is able to remove it. Virtue should be reflected upon as the basis for rapture and joy, as granting immunity from fear of self-reproach, the reproach of others, punishment, and an evil rebirth. As praised by the wise, as the root cause for freedom from remorse, as the basis for security. In accomplishing the difficult task of self-protection, virtue is superior to troops of elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry, as well as devices as mantras, spells, and blessings, for it depends on oneself, not on others. Okay, so did you catch in there? I know it's always awkward with older wording, right? But I love the elephant thing, so I had to read it. So freedom from remorse as the basis for security. So that's a different kind of security and self-protection than having an army of elephants, right? He's saying that this is protection from suffering, which is what we're actually looking for. And suffering is caused by feeling internally conflicted and bad about our actions. So this is protection from that kind of suffering, which is actually the kind that we truly suffer from. So I want you to check this out for yourself over time and see if you agree. I think it's actually magic, this kind of protection, not feeling bad about your actions. And arguably, the kind of protection we actually need. I mean, herd of elephants would be awesome too. Okay. One more long quote. This is from the Buddha. And it's on the 5 precepts is what he's talking about. He says, there are these 5 gifts, 5 great gifts: original, long-standing, traditional, ancient, unadulterated, from the beginning, that are not open to suspicion, will never be open to suspicion, and are not faulted by knowledgeable contemplatives and priests. Which 5? Abstaining from killing, abstaining from taking what is not given, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from lying, and abstaining from use of intoxicants. In doing so, one gives freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless number of beings. In giving freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings, he gains a share in limitless freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, and freedom from oppression. So one thing about the words from the Buddha, there's a lot of repetition. And I think, again, that was for remembering these sayings. So what he's saying is, when we don't harm, we give freedom from danger, animosity, and oppression to beings. I mean, that's an amazing gift. So each parami works on the previous. So we talked about generosity, last time, and now we're talking about giving freedom from harm and oppression to limitless beings. When we do this, we know that we're contributing to the happiness of those around us, like Robin experienced yesterday. And this feels both uplifting and empowering. It gives us something positive to do, and we can appreciate it. And think about it. How will people feel around you if you are not harming them? How will that make people feel? Because they're going to know. They'll relax. People around you will relax. They'll also like you and they'll hold you in high regard, which is nice too. But having the people around you relax, that's a really big deal, right? In how we see the world. So karma works through various avenues. And one of them is the response that our actions get from the world. So that's an example of karma, people relaxing because they know they're safe near us. If we don't harm and the people around us relax, then we see a relaxed and happy world instead of an anxious world. We literally change the world around us and then we see that world. So we literally live in a different world. We live in a relaxed world instead of an anxious world simply by changing our behavior. This is how our actions literally shape our external world. And this is happening all the time. Whenever we do harm someone, we create the causes for others to harm us back or disconnect from us. Think of a small way in which someone harmed you. Bring it to mind. First of all, notice how quickly it comes to mind, right? And it may not have even been recent. So we hold on to this stuff for a long time. So that was just to show the power of it. Have you ever been cold or unkind to someone because they weren't giving you the affection that you wanted? We've all done this, right? And then, of course, that pushes them further away. So we all do things like this in subtle ways all the time. We've been trained that love depends on good behavior, and that if someone behaves inappropriately, we should withdraw our love. And so we live in a culture of separation. Our actions also shape our internal world, and this is another avenue of karma. Ethical behavior promotes relaxation, internal relaxation, and lessens our guilt, which guilt tends to occupy the mind and not leave room for much else like being happy. We obsess about the negative, right? Has anyone noticed that we obsess about the negative? Yeah. So think of a way that you harmed someone in the last year. And I want you to notice, just bring it up briefly, how does it make you feel? Do you feel open, creative, and empowered? Or do you feel wiggly, uncomfortable, and shut down? Okay, so harming others is of course not helping them, but it really changes how we feel internally. Even if nobody else knows what you did, you can't hide from your own mind. Plus, we are habitual creatures in both our actions and our perceptions. So how we act will reinforce patterns in our own mind about how the world works and how others are thinking. So for example, if we lie, we assume other people are lying all the time because it feels like a normal thing to do. And we'll actually perceive things that way. We'll actually think other people are lying because we don't know, right? We're always guessing. So we're going to guess according to what feels like normal behavior to us. If we steal, we assume other people are stealing all the time. And every time we misplace something, we're going to assume someone else took it, right? This too is karma. This is another avenue of karma. When we think that the world is a negative place, we aren't particularly motivated to dissolve the walls that we've manufactured to separate ourselves from it. It makes us feel instead that we should build stronger, thicker, higher walls to protect ourselves from the hostile outside world. So it doesn't promote the connectivity associated with happiness and freedom. If instead we stop harming and start to receive more love, generosity, forgiveness, and compassion from the world in response to our own, we'll see that the world has the potential to be a healing, loving place, and we'll be more driven to and comfortable with merging with it, which is what yoga is, merging with the world. The only way to see the world this way is to change our behavior. So it's very powerful. Since ethical behavior drives an orientation toward caring for others, it puts us in the mind of a liberated person. And that sets the stage for our awakening. And that's really, so what awakening is like being, a connected, conscious person. So it doesn't have to be like, here I'm not and here I am. It's actually, we have it in moments. And every time you have a moment of that, that promotes more moments of that. So, we want to value each of these little moments that we're all having all the time if we pay attention. When we consider the needs and feelings of others as much as our own and make choices for the greater good, we are acting like a person who is awakened. And that's going to send through karma messages to our own mind that would be a nice thing to do and comfortable and familiar. So this isn't so different from being a person who's awakened, in part due to karma, as we've discussed, and in part because it's in line with reality. And we'll talk about this later in the course, that being in line with reality is what being awakened is. So the reality is that we share this world with many, many other beings, right? And all of us matter. And we walk around thinking that we're the center of the universe, whether it's, conscious or not. But obviously, each one of us can't be the center of the universe, and everyone else on the planet thinks you're wrong. So, right? So, changing our point of view to realize that everybody matters, that's a huge shift and a really big deal. And it feels really good because it's in line with what's true. So by acting in accordance with this reality, it feels more true, and we grow daily in our sense of alignment and integrity. Pema Chodron said that someone once said that ego clinging is like sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon and having all of your attention on a small pimple on your chin. So ethics as a parami is not just restraint. It's an expression of beautiful qualities like empathy and compassion. We develop the wisdom to see what actions cause harm and what actions cause peace, freedom, and happiness. Ethics is both a support for and an expression of freedom. In the Therigatha, which is the elders' verses in the Pali Canon of Buddhism, here's a quote. In this existence, one should above all train oneself in terms of morality. Morality, when cultivated, brings you success. Morality is the beginning, the support, and the primary cause of all good qualities. Therefore, make your morality pure. Morality is also the control, the gathering in, and the delight of the mind. So, in addition to all of this changing how we relate to the world, it's also changing how our mind works and feels. So we gain control over the mind, we collect the mind, we gain more clarity, wisdom, and delight the mind as well. So let's do a little practice. So you could sit in a chair, you could sit on a cushion. If you're able, and you're sitting in a chair, try to sit up away from the back of the chair so that you're tall. When you're ready, we'll close the eyes. So every time we practice together, I'd like you to begin with the body, in the body. So feeling the entire body. As you feel the entire body, you might notice areas that you want to slightly adjust your posture in. Maybe you want to soften the shoulders a little bit, or you realize that you need to sit up a little taller. Maybe you notice you could soften some part of the face, maybe the belly. Feeling embodied, feeling that you inhabit this body. This is where you're located. And throughout the practice today, I want you to stay in the body. I'd like you to keep some percentage of the mind knowing that you're in the body as part of the practice, staying grounded. I'd like you to notice your breathing, letting the body choose the rate of breathing, natural breath. Letting the belly be soft enough that the body can really choose the rate of breathing itself. The breath is unimpeded by any tension in the belly. And now looking back at your recent past, look to see, did you engage in any actions that were unskillful, that may have caused harm in some way? It doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's something quite small. Bring the event to mind, remembering what happened. generate a feeling of regret. How was the action harmful? How did the other person feel? How did you feel? It's crucial here to distinguish regret from guilt or shame. Guilt and shame are heavy. They make us self-obsessed. They paralyze us and make it difficult for us to change. Instead, remorse or regret are lighter. So we're looking for a simple acknowledgement of unskillfulness to help us to reorient toward what we value. This is a simple reminder that our actions have consequences and that we can improve our own lives and the lives of others by altering our behavior. Now generate a feeling of inner confidence in your own ability to become mindful of your actions and to act differently in the future. A confidence that the effort you put in to act skillfully will benefit yourself and others in a significant way. A confidence that you and others are worth the effort. Build up a sense of inner strength, acknowledging that only you can improve your actions and that you have the capacity. That by engaging in your life, you can turn toward what you value one moment at a time. Now, what would be a skillful remedy to counteract the consequences of the unskillful act? In this particular situation, would it be helpful to apologize? Or could you make some sort of amends? Consider the options and commit to take the appropriate action. Maybe the remedy is external and you approach the person in some way. In some situations, an internal remedy may be more appropriate, just working with your own internal being. When in doubt, consider taking the opposite action of the original unskillful action. Now, generate resolve to avoid further unskillful acts. Commit to actions that are based on intentions that you believe in. This resolve requires reasonable effort, meaning don't try to change everything at once forever, or else you'll lose steam and get frustrated. Instead, commit to making a relaxed, sustainable effort to cultivating care for yourself and others and acting in a way that expresses that care. And then we'll release all the contemplation, resting the mind in the body, aware of the entire field of bodily sensations at once. Breathing is relaxed and natural. And we'll slowly open our eyes. So I'll give you your homework before I open it up to comments on the meditation or on anything else. Comments or questions? So your homework for the day is, over the course of today, to please take some time to consider the following questions. What can you do to lessen the harm that you cause in daily life? Whether it's through your vocation, what you consume, your relationship to those you love, or your connection to the larger community of the earth and its inhabitants. Having looked closely at how you might lessen the harm that you cause, I'd like you to also consider, how might you feel should you choose to pursue this? Okay, I'm putting you all back on speaker. Any thoughts, comments, questions, arguments?
Would you just repeat that, the different ways, the different facets of the daily life?
Yes, so here, these are just some suggestions. Feel free to use the ones you want. Vocation, consumption, relationship to those you love, connection to the larger community of the earth and its inhabitants. Was that too fast? But I'm open to anything. Because what comes to your mind is going to be what's interesting. So anything anyone wants to ask or share or?
This is perfect. Thank you, Karen.
Oh,
It is perfect.
Yeah.
That was a little intense in a good way. That is just incredible where we can steer the mind. And it just feels so good to think about these different aspects. It's like refreshing and also energizing, and see that we have that power to actually shift. And it's like a different wording and then everything. I'm like, it feels very good.
beautiful.
I liked that thing that you said early on, that when we see that our actions are not aligned with our values, that's our path, our only path.
Yeah.
That really struck me.
Yeah.
Don't
And that was
walk,
from, go ahead.
just, don't avoid it. Don't walk away from it.
As if you had a choice now.
Yes, I'll just
Right.
and also that as a yogi and someone who's practiced meditation on and off, not as much on as I'd like, in this current situation that we're in, forced to be in, it's really easy to. I found it. I've always found it easier to stay true to my values when I have a plan and a structure. And why I love that Mindy said this was perfect, because I have found myself like scattered and maybe not staying true to my ethical values, in simple things, but just not being able to be because my mind is scattered, or I've had to shift what my priorities are each day now with my son home at school, or it was really perfect, because it kind of stopped me and like to reevaluate and get back on. Anyway, more on that tomorrow, but I really appreciated this today.
Good. And so to know one obstacle to acting toward our values is the kind of stress that this entire planet is under right now. So what a rich time to, instead of just ignoring that and getting more scattered, to actually take some time to consider, like, it is in our power. It's not in our power to change every single thing, but it is in our power to work with it and to be aware and to forgive ourselves, so that we can realign. So it's quite a powerful time, even though we're not in the world so much, because this work is internal. It's expressed externally, but the work is internal.
Yeah. True.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank
Again, you can
you.
email me if you'd like, or just save your stuff for tomorrow, because sharing's fun too. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you
Okay,
tomorrow,
thank
and I'll
you.
send the link to the video.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you.